everybody. We are back with another exciting episode from Ichabod's house. We're very excited to be here, of course. I am Andy with my lovely sister Jen.
I am looking at the sound waves on my controls on Zencaster, and they're not even able to measure how enthusiastic that hello was.
I was feeling Mrs. Doubtfire-ish.
You were very Mrs. Doubtfire. You were the embodiment of Mrs. Doubtfire. And so I'm going to be a little more subdued when I say, hello.
Well,
Thank you for joining us.
When I edit our episodes, I see that my lines take up the whole, and yours are just little itty bitty.
Oh no, I'm the reserved of the two of us. I'm much calmer, mellower.
You are truly the NPR host.
I am the NPR host.
You really are.
That.
And I am more Mad TV crazy. Mad magazine crazy, I guess. Okay, so this is exciting. I can't wait to get into this because I'm hoping that this is going to answer some questions that I have. So we are on season 3, episode 7. Last episode, I said it was episode 5. It was actually episode 6. Right. So this is episode 7. Right. This is the Chupacabra, the suckiest goat sucker that ever sucked. But first, we need to do a Google and Beyond from last episode.
Yes.
And that was, I was desperately trying to figure out the name of that show that is like a show, Skinwalker Ranch.
Right.
I mean, it reminds me of that. And that show is, are you ready? Oak Island.
Oak Island. Seems like it would have been a simple name to remember, Andy.
That is the Google and Beyond. Would you please give us your Ichabod's nose pick for this week?
I'm sticking with Britbox. And I'm going to say Luther is my pick. Although Luther, the character, is somewhat tortured, Idris Elba is one of the hottest men.
When those bookit.com commercials come on, I'm just like, let's replay those commercials.
Yes.
Let's just play those commercials over because he talks in his accent in that. I don't think in Luther he has his accent, does he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, does he? Okay.
Oh, yes, he does.
Yes, he is a beautiful. Yeah.
So what's your nose pick?
I'm sorry. I'm just thinking about Idris Elba in a tight shirt. His muscles rippling.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to snap out of it. I'm going to come back here. It shivers me. Okay. I watched a movie on Netflix, which is new. It's called The Outlaws. Not to be confused with the series The Outlaws. Two completely different things.
Okay.
This is a comedy where there's a couple that's going to get married. Okay. And the guy of the couple, played by Adam Devine, who is from, I believe, Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah, Workaholics, Adam Devine, yep.
Oh, and Pitch Perfect.
Pitch Perfect. Went to Millard South.
Yeah. Yes. I love him. Anyway, he plays in this, and he makes the whole freaking movie. Oh, based on a true story. It's that show. It's on Peacock. It is with Kaylee Cuoco.
There you go.
Love her.
Based on a true story.
So based on a true story on Peacock, watch that. And then, because that is super hilarious. They are people who they feel they know who a serial killer is, and they end up starting a podcast with said serial killer about the crimes he's committing. So anyway, super funny and gory. If you like the gore, over the top gores. Yeah.
Nice.
There's some gore in there. And then The Outlaws on Netflix. Those are mine.
All right. So there we go. Everybody check those out and text Andy. If you do text Andy or email her at ichabodshousepod@gmail.com, please do more than a one line because she will pout about it for days. Know what I'm talking about here.
I will.
All right.
Yeah, really.
We are so looking forward to today's turgid episode because today we get to tell you about the goat sucker, or as those wacky folks from Puerto Rico like to call it, la chupacabra. What is this thing? How do you kill it? Where did it come from? Am I in danger?
I'm glad you asked. Let's start with the first reported issues with the goat sucker of Puerto Rico. It was March of 1995, and two small towns on the island, Morovis and Orocovis, each reported a bunch of dead farm animals with the blood drained from them.
Each of the corpses had 2 small puncture wounds on the neck, but were otherwise unmolested.
Oh.
There was no blood at the scene, and no one heard anything in the night except, perhaps, the delicate slurping of a monster. But this is unconfirmed.
People were alarmed, on edge, worried that perhaps their own necks were at risk. Their own bodies might somehow, some way, be drained of blood. What could have done such a thing? And why not eat the carcasses? Seriously, that's a lot of waste. A lot of waste right there. Why just drain them and leave them dead on the ground for maggots to be born in?
Right, for real. We've watched CSI, NCIS, and CSI. We know blowflies shitting out their eggs in the corpse. One
They
can only
do.
wonder why it occurred this way. Thankfully, 5 months later, the first chupacabra sighting occurred in Canovanas, a small town 20 minutes east of the capital, San Juan. And you know how it goes. Once one supernatural chupacabra is seen, lots of them are seen. And let me tell you, the descriptions are as varied as one might imagine.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. They all didn't see the same thing.
They didn't.
It's a strange two-legged creature about 4 to 5 feet high, which looked like a cross between an alien and a fanged kangaroo. It has sharp spines down its back, a powerful tail, and staring red
Red eye.
eyes. And staring red eyes and big ears and needle-like teeth for the blood sucking.
It is a strange reptilian beast with a kangaroo-like gait, which means it hopped, I'm guessing. Glowing red eyes and a row of sharp spines running along its back.
It might just have a tail that it sits back on.
Maybe.
It is 5 feet tall with a pronounced lower jaw, large red eyes, small nostrils, and a razor-thin mouth with curved fangs. It has a rough black coat. Jagged spikes are said to grow on its back. It looks kind of like a dinosaur.
Well, the thing was generally humanoid in appearance, 3 to 4 feet tall, and had orange-yellow eyes.
It was round-headed. Let me start that again.
You're doing fabulous, darling.
No, I can't get it back. I'm trying to get it back. I feel like I'm in church right now. Okay. It was a round-headed creature with elongated black eyes, a fine jaw, and a small mouth with chameleon-like pigmentation, alternating from purple to brown to yellow, while its face was a dark gray in color.
No. None of these descriptions are correct. It is a creature between 3 and 4 feet tall, with the body and dense black plumage of an eagle, a thick neck, piercing eyes, and a wolf-like muzzle instead of a beak.
Okay, that just sounds really ugly. I'm not going to lie. That does not sound cute at all. Not at all. An eagle with a muzzle instead of a beak. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it says here that it had elongated red eyes, large fangs, claw-like hands, and a dark gray body. Or maybe it was a creature with pointed ears, strange profile, and a shaven head that ran like a gazelle. And also, it sometimes likes to have sex with cows. Because who doesn't, really?
More cushion for the pushin', I'm told. There are also reports that it can understand Spanish, as reported by a Puerto Rican housewife who insulted it. She said this to it, and I can't do a Spanish accent. If you're the chupacabra, you're a pretty sorry excuse for a creature. Then she called it a pendejo, which means stupid.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to start using that and saying that to my kids because
Yeah.
we don't say stupid in this house, but I could say pendejo.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. All right, so as soon as she said this, the poor thing covered its face with its wings and moved to a nearby wall where it crouched like it was ashamed. She hurt its feelings.
I know she did. All these descriptions are fascinating, but probably just people amusing themselves. The first credible sighting occurred in 1995 and was by Madeline Tolentino.
I love that name.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really cool name, Madeline Tolentino.
That's right.
Love it. All right, so Madeline said the creature had dark eyes that went all the way up to its temples. Oh, sort of
Mm.
spread around the sides of its head, like it
Like
had a really,
wrap around sunglasses.
like if you got a facelift, really tight one. I don't know. It was about 4 feet tall, walked on 2 legs, had thin arms, and legs with 3 fingers and toes at the ends of each limb. It had no ears. It had no nose, but just 2 small breathing holes on the front of its face. Oh, kind of like the him who must not be named. And it had spikes all the way down its back. It does sound like a dinosaur.
Yeah, it does, for real. Okay, but here's something interesting. If we are talking about the chupacabra having eyes on the sides of its heads, that speaks to it being a prey type of animal, because
Oh.
prey animals like
Mm-hmm.
rabbits, deer, gazelles have eyes on the sides of their head. Predators have eyes in the front of the skull: lions, tigers, bears, oh my, badgers, wolves, apes, etc. Prey animals like deer, mice, rabbits, like I said, have their eyes on the side of the head.
Because they're watching out for the predator.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Nevertheless, the chupacabra continued to show up in varying descriptions throughout the region, and the very first recorded U.S. sighting was in 1996 in Tucson, Arizona.
There, Jose Espinosa's son reported the sighting. First of all, we have no idea who Jose Espinosa is, but apparently he had a lot to say, or his son did anyway.
All right.
He had a lot to say about what his son had to say.
Okay.
So his son said that Chupacabra opened the front door, slammed it, walked into the house through the kitchen, and entered my bedroom.
All right. Well, once in the kids' room, it sat on his bed. It sat on his bed for a minute and then jumped out a window. They were just going to shoot the shit.
Uh-huh.
Just sat on that bed, maybe have a cigarette, maybe
Mhm.
light up a weed cigarette, whatever you call that.
A
What do
joint?
you call that? A joint? Maybe do that. Sit there, shoot the shit. I don't know. Whatever teen boys do. I don't know if he's a teen. I have no idea. And when asked what the creature looked like, the boy said it was about 3 feet tall, had long arms. Oh, no legs. A beak instead of a mouth and a red nose. Well, we don't know legs.
So we don't know how it really opened the door. And clearly it had opposable thumbs if it was able to use a doorknob, right?
Right, but did it just bump along on its butt?
We just don't know, Andy.
All right. Hmm.
Not long after this, Olympia Govea of Sweetwater, Florida, said that the chupacabra had killed 27 of her chickens and 2 of her goats. She reported this to the zoo and demanded that they do something about it. But the zoo said, "Chill out, lady. It wasn't the chupacabra. It was wild dogs." And Olympia Govea, never one to take things lying down, harumphed and said this, which Andy will read to you as soon as she has recovered.
Okay. I'm so sorry. That was just so funny. It just amazes me how people expect other people just to take care of things that they have nothing to do with. It just
I
amazes
know.
me.
Sometimes I call the weather station and I say, "God damn it, it's windy out here. You people need to do something about it." And then they tell me to chill out. So I have given them numerous horrible Yelp reviews.
Ah, for fuck's sake. Okay. So,
So she said this.
Olympia said this. If dogs were to blame, why didn't they feast on the kill, huh? And more importantly, what kind of dog leaves no blood behind at the scene of the carnage?
What kind of dog indeed? Well, here's some information for you. Domestic dogs do not normally kill for food. As a rule, they feed very little on their prey. And I can attest to that.
Yes.
My dog wants to kill a rabbit just to kill a rabbit because
Mhm.
it's there. It's in her yard. It has a tiny little neck she wants to clamp down on and shake until it breaks. That's just how
And
she
then
rolls.
gift it to you.
Right.
Hmm. So what is the big deal? Why the obsession with this and the debate over whether or not this is a chupacabra or a dog attack?
Yeah. Why?
I'll tell you why. Because dogs don't suck the blood from their attacks. They attack and rip and spew the leavings in a wide arc. They are not clean killers. Agreed.
Agreed.
The attacks attributed to the chupacabra were clean and allegedly absent of blood. Dun dun dun.
So we've got some descriptions of the chupacabra. We have it with a beak, with a red nose, with spikes on the back, with wings, feathers, fur, red eyes, yellow eyes, orange eyes, and black eyes. And now you might be saying to yourself right now, "Gee whiz, if only someone could get a hold of a chupacabra corpse." Well, this is your lucky day, because it turns out there have been corpses aplenty.
Shut up.
Yep.
I've known of one.
Oh, wait till we get going.
Oh, God, I can't wait. I was hoping you'd get to this, quite honestly. All right, so let's get into the part of this show we've decided to call Goat Suckers and You. How to know if that thing killing your livestock is a chupacabra.
Right. Excellent. And in this part of the show, we're going to break down some specific cases and get into the bodies of the chupacabras left behind. Let's start in Nicaragua.
There, on a small farm in August 2000, Jorge Talavera lost some of his livestock in a most unusual manner. And oddly, the animals had sorry. And oddly, the animals had been completely drained of all their blood. He said this.
In 15 days, it sucked 25 sheep, and my neighbor lost 35 sheep in 10 days. It was an average of 5 sheep and goats a night.
Jorge was
See? I'm sorry. I'm sorry to anybody from Puerto Rico. I know that is I just can't do a Spanish accent. I apologize.
You know what you're trying to do? Who you're channeling is Speedy Gonzalez from
I
the Saturday morning
know.
cartoons.
I know. I know.
I'm trying to think if I could. I can't even.
I know. I can't even either.
All right. Jorge was understandably pissed about this, so he decided to try and catch and kill whatever was to blame. On August 25th, he and a friend staked out the farm. It wasn't long before their efforts were rewarded.
Before too long, he heard the screaming of one of his goats and caught sight of 2 or 3 creatures roaming around in his herd. He said they had the head of a bull, rose-colored teeth, leathery skin, and bumps along the spine. There were also reports of the creatures having yellow hair on a short tail, big eyes, and claws and fangs.
Well, naturally, Jorge and his friend opened fire on the creatures. Ooh, they hit one and wounded it. Of course they did.
Of course they did.
But were unsuccessful in catching one. The next day, they looked for tracks and found none. It was as if they didn't have feet. Or maybe hadn't been there at all. Maybe they were just floating. Maybe they're just floating creatures without the bottom. You know, like how some apparitions don't have the bottom part?
Right. They were just floating there. All right. Not so fast. 3 days passed, and a local ranch hand noticed some vultures circling in the distance. He raced to where they were, thinking maybe he'd find a dead sheep or goat. But when he got there, he found what he was sure was a chupacabra.
Well, it had no hair and very small ears. Oh, kind of like a baby.
Mm-hmm.
The creature was shaped like a yellow dog. Shaped like a yellow dog. Okay. Was this
Because yellow dogs are shaped slightly differently than
well,
dogs of other
that's what I
colors.
was wondering. I thought, okay, were you just shaped like a dog with the color of yellow? Or I don't know. You go anyway with that. Was this the elusive chupacabra? Had the unknown creature been found and identified at last? Or was it just a dog with mange? Oh, I hope it wasn't just a dog with mange.
This find of the this thing that looked like a yellow dog or was shaped like a yellow dog made big news. Some felt that this was an animal that had escaped from the circus. Some felt it might be a new creature previously unknown, but naturally from someplace in undiscovered Africa. Because let's be honest, there clearly have to be parts of the world that haven't been discovered yet. Some felt it could be a hybrid of several species, possibly the result of evil genetic engineering.
Oh, who is that? The Dr.
Moreau.
Not Shivago.
No.
I've never seen Dr. Shivago, so I don't know. Who's the one with the animals? Who's can talk? Dr. Doolittle can talk to the animals. Who and Dr. Monroe?
The island of Dr. Moreau. He
The island of Dr.
performed
Monroe.
experiments on humans and animals.
Okay, there we go. All right. Well, see, I know half of things.
I know.
I do. Like I knew the Oak Island. I knew it had the word island in it. I know half of things. I'm half useful.
That's why I'm here, because when we put our heads together, we have a full brain.
Thank God. Okay, Reverend, I love this name, Francisco.
I know.
It's Francisco's fun to say. Great. It is. Reverend Francisco Ortiz felt that it was a sign the end times were coming and that everyone better get themselves baptized as soon as humanly possible because it wouldn't be long before the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse showed up.
Well, in order to determine if the world was ending, or if the goat sucker was just a dog with mange, or if some new creature had been made in a lab, the remains were taken to the National Autonomous University of Nicaragua, or UNAN for short. And nothing is more prestigious than an autonomous university.
I don't. There's so many thoughts I have right now. There, the renowned biologist Pedrarius Davila examined the body. We recorded I don't even know how to
I think we're just gonna have to do our normal white
normal
girl
voices. Yeah.
accents because
We recorded the characteristics of the skeletal system, number of vertebrae and ribs, nails, decomposition state, among others, to place in a database.
sadly, the closest description they could come up with after all that research and data recording was that the skeleton wasn't really all that unusual. It was a canine and didn't really appear to be capable of sucking blood from anything. Final report: dog.
Well, they just dashed a lot of hopes for people, didn't they?
They did.
Well, Talavera was livid. That animal was switched around at the university, he declared.
Okay, so let's legit or bullshit here before we go any further. What do you think the possibility of a blood-sucking creature is? Do we think that it could potentially exist? What do we think about the possibility of a creature like this having a red nose, a beak, and being able to open doors and walk through homes? What do we think about the bones possibly being switched at Yunnan?
Well, I think that it's like with the Mothman, right? And like with any other sightings, right? So you might have a sighting of something somewhere that someone saw that looked something like something. There's a lot of
Mhm,
somethings going on. Nothing specific because it's usually dark when this happens. And then you have all these other superfluous sightings that happen around, many, many, many of them on the tail of that original sighting,
mhm,
which could just be generated because of groupthink or panic, some little low level hysteria, maybe fear
right,
driving those sightings.
right,
So I think that there is could be something to the first sighting,
mhm.
but then the subsequent sightings, I don't know that I don't think that something came in with no legs to someone's room and then jumped out the window.
So are you at legit or bullshit right now?
Well, I'm half. I
You're
got a
half
toe in. I got a toe into legit.
okay.
Just a toe, just a little dab. What
I
are
agree
you?
with I agree with what you said about the superfluous sightings and people seeing things. It's kind of like if you walk into an old creaky house and you expect it to be haunted, any noise you make or any noise you hear that is not a noise you've made can is a possible supernatural occurrence rather than just an old house settling or creaking in
Yes.
the wind or whatever.
Yes.
I think the same thing is going to be true for this. If you even if you live in a place where there's coyotes on a regular basis all over the place, if you are expecting or your brain has already been primed, you are much more likely to attribute something you catch out of the corner of your eye or a bizarre looking coyote or a coyote that might be a little bigger than normal or a wild dog. You're much more likely to determine that that thing is something supernatural.
Agreed. Agreed.
Okay.
Why don't I do that in the microphone? Agreed.
So I'm kind of leaning toward bullshit more right now.
Okay. I get that. All right. Now, before we go any further, we want to talk a little bit about a chupacabra sighting from a person we know from Texas who encountered.
It's in here. I put it in here. This is my eyewitness
Oh my
sighting.
God, you scared me.
I didn't think I put it in. Yay me.
Yeah, oh, look at
Yay.
you.
I'm
You're
not an
just
idiot.
killing it.
I am killing it.
You are killing it.
I'm winning at life. I just forget everything that I put in a script 3 weeks ago.
Oh. Okay. So we're gonna about a side. Okay, blah, 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 blah. We're gonna talk about a little bit about a chupacabra sighting from a person we know from Texas who encountered a chupacabra while living in Arkansas several years ago. And interestingly enough, this is not my friend. This is
Nope.
Jen's friend.
This is
Even
my
though
friend.
I live in Arkansas and Jen lives in Nebraska, this is an Arkansas sighting. This lady, we'll call her L, is let's call her Laverne. Can we call her Laverne? L, like on Laverne and Shirley when she wore the big L on her.
Call her L.
Look,
Call her Laverne. You
I'm
can
going to
call her
call her
Laverne.
Laverne.
Okay.
Laverne is a no nonsense individual, and we believe her when she speaks of her encounter.
Exactly. So I work with this individual, and I was at work one night talking about this episode. I was working on the script, and my friend Laverne said she had seen a chupacabra one time. Naturally, I had to hear more about this story, so I asked her to share it with me, which she kindly did.
She was fishing at night with her boyfriend, and they were out walking through some very thick woods in the Ouachita National Forest in Hot Springs. Laverne's boyfriend realized he'd forgotten something from the boat, so he ran back to the water to retrieve it. This left Laverne on the edge of the trees.
She said the moon was exceptionally bright that night, bright enough to cast tree shadow, in fact. Now, for some
Oh.
reason that she doesn't recall, Laverne moved toward the trees, moving deeper into the woods as her boyfriend ran down to the boat.
Suddenly, she came upon a white chupacabra. It was white and looked to her kind of like a dog, kind of like a coyote. It was very thin and bony, and it sat on its haunches, snarling at her.
Laverne reports it did not seem to want to attack her, and she was not afraid of it. She and the beast looked at each other for a period of about 30 seconds when, for whatever reason, eye contact was broken and the creature hopped up and ran away. So I would advise all of you to ask around. You may know someone who has seen a cryptid, a chupacabra, the Fouke monster, the Jersey Devil, and maybe you've seen something. So if you have, we would really like to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just happened to be talking about this at work, and I looked at her and I said, I'm really, I knew she was from Texas, and I said, Laverne, I need to tell you, I don't think the chupacabra is real. And she said, well, I've seen one. And I said,
Did the hair stand up on your arms?
it kind of did. I said, are you serious? And she said, I am completely serious and in earnest. And so we kept seeing patients. And then I asked her if I could interview her about it. I said, will you tell me the story? And I initially asked her if she would come on the show and give her account. She said she didn't feel comfortable being recorded.
Yeah,
And I said, that's fine. And so she just talked and I kind of typed it all out. And that's her tale. And
I love it.
yeah. Yep. So she saw something pretty crazy.
And I think that I mean, if she's working with you, she's got to be an intelligent person. So I think she probably knows the difference between a dog. And you know what I'm saying?
She has lived all over the world. She speaks several languages. She's lived
Oh,
in Ireland. She's lived in Germany. She's lived in Texas. She's lived in Arkansas. I'm sure she lived in other places. She actually worked as a translator over in Germany. So yes, and now she's a rad tech, and she geeks out about physics and things like that. So she's not a shrinking violet or an impractical person. She's one of the most level-headed individuals
yeah.
I know.
So cool. And you know her.
I do know
You
her.
know her.
I do.
All right. So let's time travel now to 2004 when in Elmendorf, Texas, rancher Devin McAnally caught sight of caught sight of a weird animal eating berries. The beast was very thin with a bluish colored coat, but was overall nearly hairless. It also had huge ears. It sounds like a blue Doberman. Just looking at the beast, he was sure it had attacked his livestock, so he shot it. Okay.
Doesn't even mention that he'd had livestock that had been attacked, but he just took one look at it and it's like, I can tell. If you haven't attacked my livestock yet, you're thinking about it. So I shot it.
What you described here is just like our blue
Blue
Doberman,
Doberman.
Rogan. Looks, I mean, it
Yes.
sounds just like him.
So he got up close to the beast and noticed that it was a female and she was possibly pregnant. Her estimated weight was 20 pounds and she had
Oh,
funky teeth. Her upper and lower incisors overlapped in her closed mouth like a wild pig's would overlap, like tiny
oh,
tusks.
okay. He pulled out one of its teeth to be submitted for DNA testing and buried the carcass in his yard. Again, controversy swirled around the discovery. Was it a chupacabra? Was it a wild dog? The San Antonio Zoo said it's clearly a member of the dog family.
A regional wildlife biologist Brian Mesenbrink said it was a coyote with mange. So, what about the tooth? Well, DNA from that showed it was not a coyote, but a breed of domestic dog, exact breed unknown.
Interesting. And while you might be thinking to yourself that the chupacabra is only seen in the South, you'd be wrong. Wrong, people. Turner, Maine, 2006, had its own chupacabra experience. There, a woman came upon a dead creature resembling a dog, but not quite a dog.
It's interesting that they that people will happen upon these creatures as being just dead. So here in Maine, somebody happens across a dead creature. The man who followed the vulture
Mm-hmm.
came across a dead creature. The previous one in Texas just shot it for looking suspicious. But it's interesting that so many of these are dead. So what I
Yeah,
would posit is if there's a genetic anomaly or if they're sick or a dog with mange, they're going to die. They're going to become anemic and unable to eat, and they will die in a period
right.
of 3 or 4 months because mange is fatal if not treated. Anyway, I just find it interesting. So this not quite a dog creature was blue in color, blue eyes, blue lips, and charcoal colored fur. The
Oh.
creature naturally became a news sensation, and debate once again took place over what it was, where it came from, and how it was created.
But the great thing about having a corpse, Jen, is that DNA can often be obtained. And
Hmm.
this was the case here as well. DNA from the creature was tested and showed something very, very interesting. The animal's mother was a dog, but the father was something unknown, probably a dog, but researchers could not be certain. But see, I take issue with that. I do, because if it was probably a dog, well, why can't you say 100% a dog? I
Right.
mean, you have the testing right there.
I know. It reminds me of the movie The Omen when they are digging up the grave in the cemetery of where this couple's child supposedly had been buried. And they've discovered that um, they had killed the baby, their
Oh.
the birth baby, and had replaced it with the descent Satan's child, and they dig up the grave of the mother, and it was a jackal. So the son of a jackal is Satan. So it makes me, no wonder that watch The Omen. It'll
I
all
need
make
to. Well,
sense.
I was thinking it kind of reminds me of the fairies who, steal the babies.
Yes. So anyway, so if we don't know what the parents are, it could be that this was the spawn of hell and someone's trying to make the Antichrist.
Well, there you go.
The United States is attempting to make the Antichrist in a lab. Um, Write your senator, everyone, and tell them to stop attempting to genetically engineer the Antichrist because Mrs. Talavera, Talladega, Talafina is not going to stand for it. Well,
Listen.
Mr. Talavera. Neither is that lady
Yeah,
in Florida.
that's right.
All right. So now you have probably realized that there can really be only two camps for the chupacabra. You either belong to the yes, the chupacabra is real camp or the give me a fucking break camp. But we'd like to point out that these sightings are all real and the DNA testing with mild irregularities is real also. So if you are in the give me a fucking break camp, that's cool. But for the sake of this show and the sake of the world of the unknown, which is vast, we're going to provide you with some additional stories to see if we can perhaps influence you and get you to change sides.
And which camp are you, Jen?
I'm in the give me a fucking break camp, but I'm going to try and change my own mind because Laverne is a good friend of mine and I believe with all my heart she saw something. But did she just see a coyote or a white dog or a demon or the son of a jackal? We don't
Listen,
know.
the moon, what could have been the son of a jackal, the moon was out bright, that it's so bright it left tree shadows. I don't know. I'm with Laverne, 100%.
All right.
Okay. Well, have you heard of Wendy Kalberg from New Mexico? Neither had we. But in September of 2000, she encountered the chupacabra and it rocked her world.
She saw it along Coors Road right around Albuquerque. There, a creature resembling a dog or a coyote was seen in nearby fields. So it resembled these things, but she's thinking it's not one of these things. Here's the
Right.
thing. I'm just going to say, if it looks like a dog and barks like a dog, if it looks like a coyote and howls like a coyote, that's what it is.
Not if it is something with some kind of hair or plumage and spikes down its back.
There's no spikes. It looks like a dog or coyote. So what happened to all the red eyes, beaks, spikes? We don't know. At any rate,
Oh,
it had a very long and thin tail and was nearly hairless. It had huge ears and lots of sores and scabs around its body. Some
oh.
might call that mange. Some might call that the mange.
Was this a dog with mange or the Chupacabra? They didn't stick around to find out. They took off and reported the sighting. It reminds me of in The Mothman. That person called up to say, I didn't see anything in the tree. And I just felt I needed to report that I didn't see anything in the tree. So now y'all know I didn't see anything. um,
Uh,
so they took off and reported the sighting. Naturally, no one wanted to find out if it was a dog with mange, possibly in need of treatment and rescue. The wise people of Albuquerque opted to stay indoors and keep their pets and livestock sheltered as well, just in case.
I was walking around our clinic the other day. Well, sometimes if it's a nice day, and it's quiet, in the evening, we'll walk around the building a couple times just to get some fresh air. And as we were walking, a fox with horrible mange approached us.
Oh,
It was so sad. It wasn't even scared of us. It was just miserable, just miserable.
what'd you
Uh,
do?
I went back inside and didn't call anybody.
There you have it, folks. Jen, savor of people, not animals.
Isn't that awful? Actually, what happened was we went back inside and got busy. And then later I Googled, what do you do if you see a fox with mange? And everything said, don't go near it.
Which
And,
for sure,
and
absolutely.
then, it said you can call animal control, but they may or may not do
Yeah,
anything. So,
yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, you would do something if you
oh
could.
God, no, I should have called. That bothers me even still now.
No, you should. I was only teasing. Hey, listen, you saved a guy who got into a wreck across the street from your clinic.
That's true. We
You
did.
jumped into action like you should have a cape. That's
I don't want
amazing. Well, capes are, yeah, superheroes shouldn't wear capes. Okay.
to. Well, as luck would have it, Kahlberg's neighbor saw the creature while in her car and happened to have a camera with her. They were able to catch a pretty good photo and they sent it along to the zoo in the hopes that they could get some much needed answers.
That's right. They needed answers to questions such as how big of assholes are we all for not helping this obviously mange infested canine? For sure. What kind of idiot thinks this frail thing is capable of sucking blood from anything bigger than a bunny? Yeah.
Sadly, these weren't the questions they asked at the zoo. They just asked who the hell it was, what the hell it was.
Or
The
who?
zoo manager agreed that the animal was scary looking, but it was probably canine. Yes, yes, canine. And after doing some checking, it was determined that the dog is a breed from Mexico. It's a Zoloichuntli or Zoloitzcuintli or Zolo for short. And get this, it's bred to be hairless.
I am so glad you gave yourself that word.
That was clearly an oversight on my part.
It's a
My bad.
beautiful word.
Yes, it is a beautiful word.
That's interesting. So it is a dog breed from Mexico that's bred to be hairless. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are they cute? Did you Google it?
Um, I did not.
Okay. So, was it a chupacabra? What do you think about this?
I don't think so.
Well, now that we know that there's a breed that's bred on purpose to be hairless,
Right.
which I don't even know how you'd go about doing that. Thank God I'm not a scientist. I don't want to sit around and think about that. All right, so we don't think it's Chupacabra. So let's move on to Blanco, Texas in 2009, where once again, a vicious creature decided it would be hilarious to harass some chickens, as vicious and non vicious creatures think it's fun to do. And let us tell you, chickens don't appreciate harassment. Not one bit. So when a man in Blanco heard how unhappy his chickens sounded out in the barn, he decided to investigate.
He didn't catch the creature, but he was concerned it was a raccoon or other varmint, so he did the smart thing and left out some poison. The next morning, he discovered a dead creature which he couldn't quite make sense of.
That it was dead, or he didn't know what creature it
He
was.
didn't know what creature it
So I
was.
say, well, dude, you left out the poison. Come on now. Okay, he estimated it to weigh in at about 80 pounds. Oh, that'd be a big dog. And
Big dog.
so it looked like either a dog or a coyote, but its front legs seemed a little too long for that. Oh, seemed a little too long for that. Okay. It was hairless with chocolate brown skin. And what do you do if you find an animal like this in your yard?
You call good old Jerry Ayer, local taxidermist and all around good guy. And when Jerry says, "Hey, that's weird looking," well, you know you've got yourself a chupacabra. Now, we jest, but the reality is that this thing, although resembling a dog, was really, really strange looking. It was strange enough that Jerry decided he'd go ahead and dissect it and stuff it using his wicked taxidermy skills. And props to Jerry, because he clearly had opinions about this that made sense. He said this.
I don't necessarily believe it's just a coyote with a bad case of mange. The Zolo dogs look very similar, but what I have not witnessed on those dogs is the coyote hair. Now, this thing is hairless. 95% of it hairless. It has a little bit of hair, like right between the shoulder blades and up in the nostrils. But that hair was a blend of blonde, brown, and
Pubes.
black. And
Pubes.
pubes, yes, and pubes. And inside of the ears, too, which is identical to coyote hair. It looks like coyote hair to me.
But he also didn't think it was a coyote with mange. He had, he explained, seen a lot of coyotes with mange over the years, and they had bald patches, but they weren't completely bald. Sort of like this creature, with hair between its shoulder blades and on its tails. They tended to have big chunks of hair over the body mixed with scabby patches of skin. So when the author attempted to pin him down with his belief in the chupacabra, Jerry said this.
Now, I don't rightly believe in chupacabras. I don't believe in anything mythical, beasts or otherwise whatsoever. We labeled it that because everyone else was calling it that. I'd probably say it's a freak o' nature coyote or a hybrid breed with a genetic mutation.
So, what became of this particular dissected and stuffed creature? Well, as you can imagine, when word got out about this strange creature with the big ears and pointed snout, folks were eager to see it. The taxidermy school where Ayers worked was inundated with calls. People stopped by to see it. News outlets contacted him constantly. Now, Jerry was a quiet guy, living quiet life, and this was just too much for him. So he decided to sell the creature. In 2009, he sold it to John Adolphi, who displays it in his Phoenix, New York museum as a conversation piece.
Now, before we go any further, we need to point something out. The creature on display in John Adolphi's museum was never seen killing any farm animals. No one is certain that this No one is certain this is the creature that was harassing chickens in Blanco, Texas. Furthermore, no chickens were harmed during the harassment. They were just annoyed and bothered. So let's not go accusing the hairless beast poisoned by an angry farmer of being a goat sucker when there were no goats sucked.
Agreed. So let's move ahead. The year is 2010, and Tony Potter of Runaway Bay, just north of Fort Worth, was busy tending the greens of the golf course when he found a weird looking animal. Dead. It was dead. It looked like a dog, sort of, but also not like a dog, sort of.
I think that people say that, say something similar when they see me. She looks like a supermodel, sort of, but then not look like a supermodel, sort of. I think that's what happens.
She has two legs.
Mhm. She does. Since it was dead, he felt comfortable approaching it. He took it in to a local vet to see if they could identify what it was. The vet had no idea. So Tony Potter posted a picture of it online and sought the assistance of the World Wide Web. Oh, well, that's experts right there. Some said hairless dog, some said chupacabra. You know, the huge suspected labels.
But Potter needed to know. So he approached Jennifer Barrow, biologist with Texas Parks and Wildlife, and it was at last identified as a raccoon without stripes.
Shut up.
For real.
Huh. All right. Well, there you go. Not a chupacabra, a raccoon without
Hmm.
stripes. Apparently, is that an off breed
I think it
or
was
just
probably
a?
just a mutation.
Okay. So let's move on to Horizon City, just outside of El Paso. In this particular instance, no corpse was found. Oh,
Mm.
but a significant attack occurred. Oh, on January 8th, a strange animal attacked 20 chickens belonging to Cesar Garcia. No one saw the attack. No one saw any creature sneaking away from the scene. But it wasn't what people saw that bothered Garcia. It was what Garcia himself didn't see. Get you every time.
I know. And what he didn't see was blood, like none. Instead, he saw all 20 chickens tossed in a big pile, not even plucked, just tossed. Bloodless chickens tossed in a pile. Garcia felt that the chickens had to have been drained by the chupacabra, who just sucked on their necks, slurped them like a drink box, and then tossed them in a pile. Although witnesses kind of disagreed with that. Witness accounts disagreed with that. They reported seeing a lot of blood at the scene. So maybe they weren't all drained. We don't know. Maybe he's full of
Listen,
shit.
yeah, listen, Garcia. You can't get us all excited about that and say there's bloodless chickens in a pile. And
Yep.
then other people are saying, oh, wait a minute. Let's pump the brakes on that shit because there was a lot of blood. It's a
Right.
fucking massacre up in here, people. All right. Well, these chickens, it's very,
Yep.
it's,
We don't
it's
know.
like we're on a roller coaster here, is what it is.
I know. I know.
Okay. What we do know is that we have one more case to tell you about before we go. And that is the case of Phyllis Canyon's Chupacabra in Cuero, Texas. Phyllis has been a rancher for years and had been dealing with cats and small livestock disappearing from her property for years.
Now, animal disappearances or maulings are not altogether uncommon on ranches. Animals are left out unsupervised on vast stretches of land, and wild animals will occasionally prey upon them. But in 2007, Phyllis reported that the attacks were getting stranger and somewhat more violent.
Add to that the few sightings she had of some bluish gray hairless animals running around, and she was getting pretty concerned. Did she have a chupacabra problem? Was there going to be a chupacabra infestation? After she found a dead chicken with all its blood drained, she became concerned. She said this.
Any predator we have here would normally carry the game off. A coyote would carry the chicken off. I set up a video camera and started filming where the chickens were. And let me tell you, chickens are some motherfucking vain animals. Never seen animals put on for the camera like my chickens did. I have a gazillion feet of film that shows coyote coming and going and taking the chicken, and a wild dog and a bobcat, but never got anything on this film
Of the
except the
chupacabra.
bobcat and the coyote and the wild dog. But I cannot, hand to God, I cannot explain on this gazillion feet of film what was messing with my chickens. I just didn't catch nothing. Like I said, except that bobcat and that coyote and the wild dogs, except those. It's a mystery. We're all just still mystified.
It is a mystery, Phyllis.
It's a mystery.
Right there with you. But listen, Phyllis caught a break when one of her neighbors called and said they'd found something really bizarre on the side of the road. Maybe it was the wild dog, the bobcat, and the coyote all sharing a chicken together on a
May
little tree stump with a tablecloth. And Sam, the
little
sheepdog, was over there checking in.
little checkered napkin tied
Yes.
around their neck, knife and fork.
Um, okay, but seriously, Phyllis raced to the scene so she could get a look at the creature. It was dark-skinned and hairless, just like, oh, that's what she said, just like the ones she had noticed talking about her ranch. And as she stood there looking at it, she got another call. Another creature had been found right in front of her house.
Well, damn. She went to that animal, took the animal back to her house so she could take a closer look at it. She found it to have large canine teeth, such as what a canine would have, but really no other teeth throughout the mouth. I saw a picture of this creature, and it did, in fact, have a mouth full of teeth. So I don't know what the hell Phyllis was smoking. She was perplexed by the appearance of this animal, which looked like a dog to me in the picture I saw of it. DNA was sampled and sent for testing.
Okay, and after sequencing and evaluation was performed, Phyllis's Chupacabra proved to be, with 97% certainty, a coyote.
All right. So let's legit or bullshit one last time.
What do you think about the Chupacabra? Oh, yes. Wait a minute. Back it up. I think that these sightings, obviously, they have DNA testing. So
Okay.
we're dogs and dog like coyotes, whatever. But that doesn't mean that the chupacabra isn't real. Could be like Sasquatch, right?
Could be.
Just haven't Laverne's sighting could absolutely been legit. Because here's the thing too, all they're doing is testing dead ones. We want a live one that's been caught alive.
Um, I think that if people are seeing animals being sucked of blood, that is something clearly has been doing that.
Or they have some really good drugs.
Yes. I'm
I'm
gonna
kidding.
say the people's reports who have seen it and who have been scared by it and who have had lost um, livestock are legitimately reporting something. Do I think the chupacabra is a real thing? There's so many wild variations of it. Um, Anything that's been found has clearly looked like a raccoon or a canine. I'm still leaning toward bullshit. I
Okay.
believe that the accounts that, like, my friend Laverne
Mhm.
gave, that is so clearly legit. I have to believe I totally believe her account was what she saw at Chupacabra. And is a Chupacabra just a form of dog? If it's a form of dog or coyote or canine breed of some sort, then yes, it's definitely legit. It's just an unknown breed. Is it something covered with spikes and hops like a kangaroo with no, but yet has no legs? I'm going to say that's bullshit.
Is there any folklore around the chupacabra, like it's a story that was told to make kids behave?
No, it did not even come into existence prior to 1995. Chupacabra was not even something.
Oh, shut up! Really?
Really. Yes,
Oh,
really.
okay.
And
All right.
before I get your legit or bullshit, and we'll do our Yeti scores here too. So my Yeti score, incidentally, is a 2. Um, uh, I wanted to give my source. It's called "Tracking the Chupacabra" by Benjamin Radford. Very well written book with pictures in it. Very well researched. He went and interviewed all these people. So highly recommend that. I got mine on Amazon. You can probably find it at any used bookstore as well.
Um, so I think that the people who see these when they have animals, I thought the chupacabra was under my desk.
I'm sure you did.
My 2-pound dog moved my foot. I was a little scared. Um, I think that when people have animals at risk who they either care about or they have money invested in, farm animals, family pets, whatever, I think that emotions can run high
Agreed.
and that eyewitness accounts, and we've talked about that many, many times, eyewitness accounts cannot be trusted a
Agreed.
lot of the time.
Agreed.
However, having said that, I do also think that there are things that, so I'm going to kind of talk out of both sides of my mouth here. So you could see something that's off, right? It's supposed to look normal and it's not looking normal.
Right.
Things that we're used to. Now, is that just because it's a different species or I mean, a different breed of a species that we already are very commonly involved with and know very well? Or is it a completely different species we've never seen before? Who knows? But also, our mind, when we see something, our mind will fill in the missing pieces. If it's something we don't recognize, our mind will try to make sense of it. And that's where eyewitness accounts sometimes can't be trusted because, I don't know, any of those eyewitness accounts, well, it had no legs or it had arms that were longer than its legs or I don't know, something. I'm just saying that our mind can play, that's where your mind can kind of play tricks on you because maybe you're trying to fill in some gaps there. So maybe there are some really weird looking things out there that these people have actually seen, but they aren't describing them right. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because their mind is trying to fill in something and trying to make sense of something that they simply can't make sense of.
Agreed.
So I don't know. I'm going to give it a 3.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
Um, all right.
That's my score, is a 3.
Okay. All right. I think that that's a good score and that's fair. And I think you make some very good points.
Well, I usually do, Jen.
You do, for reals.
Okay. So what do you people out there, the most important people, think about the Chupacabra? Let us know when you can, because we would love to hear from you. And please, please, please share any paranormal stories you have or
Yeah,
encounters with cryptids or true crime, whatever.
for real. We're all ears.
Mhm.
Thanks for listening. You make every episode awesome. And until next time, remember Ichabod loves you.
Carry a flashlight and always bring extra pants.